Today, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today, we are starting another chapter. We started chapter number 19, Mary, and the story about Isa alayhi salam and his miraculous birth, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have made Sayyidina Mariam, or the Mary alayhi salam, one of the most well-known women in the history. And to know and do the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Quran is basically praising Mary alayhi salam, and the only one of these recognition and recognizing her, one of these things is actually mentioned. There is no name of any chapter was in the Quran was named under any female other than Mary alayhi salam. And when we try to started the chapter number 19, we want to just first of all go and see the relation between this chapter and the chapter before. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, chapter number 18, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ended that chapter by saying, وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. Indeed, he said, who want to meet his Lord. That was in the cave, which is called the chapter called the cave. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at the end of that, the last verse, he said, verse number 110, he says that whoever want to go and meet his Lord, he does good. He does good actions. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا يُشْرِكْ. He doesn't associate partners. He doesn't bring partners in this worshipping with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدٍ. And why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that? Because in the Christian faith, and they had, or they have Isa alayhi salam as associating him in the worshipping with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we can in a Christian terminology we can say the Father. But in at that point they worshipping Isa alayhi salam, Jesus peace upon him, and making him as a partner. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after he finished this ayah, he brought the chapter 19, which is talking about the story of Mary alayhi salam. One very important thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't start that chapter by talking directly about the story of Mary. No, he brought the story about Zachariah alayhi salam, and how Zachariah alayhi salam, he was a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he didn't have an offspring, he didn't have a child, and he wanted a child, and he was already old. It sounds familiar, like Abraham alayhi salam as well. So once if we in chapter number 3, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is bringing us a small scene of Zachariah. What made Zachariah alayhi salam, who was a worshipper, and he was a guy who was inviting, and he was one of the top priests in the Jewish synagogues and the Jewish temples, at that time. But what is the main thing is, when he was entering, he was the one who was sponsoring Sayyidatna Mariam, Mary alayhi salam. He was the one who was sponsoring her in the synagogue at that time, or the place of worship at that time. And he was, whenever, actually they did like a lottery to see which one, and the lottery actually, and he won the lottery to be the sponsor of Sayyidatna Mariam, Mary alayhi salam. So whenever he was entering to the place of worshiping where Mary was worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he would go and find different fruits. For example, the fruits of the summer, you will find them in the winter. The fruit in the winter, you find them in the summer. So he just, realized that something here is going miraculously going on. So he said, Ya Mariam, ayya lakat, where did this came from? So she said, this is coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This comes from Allah. Allah gives whoever He wills, whatever He wills. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives whoever He wills, whatever He wills. So then he realized that there's something here going on. So he so he went to the place of worship. This is very important as also to emphasize and to basically underscore the importance of places of worship. the places of worship is a very important place of, that you people should go. The people should visit. They should people when they have a problem, when they have asking God for something, they need to go there. They need to do their supplication there. So that is why when even Zachariah, he was worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was in that place, he was asking God for all of this. أتته الملائكة. The angels have came to him to give him the good news that you will have a child. You know, so he stayed. فجاءته الملائكة in the place of worship. The angels came to him where he was worshiping Allah in the place of worship. So this is very important for us to understand, to realize that places of worship, if as much as you can, go when you have all the time. Try to have consistent visit to the places of worship on a daily basis, at least, like the masajid. You know, make sure you go every day, at least one prayer a day. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning the story. Again, what is the importance of mentioning the story about Zachariah alayhi salam? And for Yahya, Yahya is the son of Zachariah. Why Yahya? He was born before Jesus. So two things we have to understand. One thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he gave Mary alayhi salam, he told her what? That she saw miracles of God. She saw the fruits, which were not supposed to be the season for. She saw the fruits in front of her in a different season. That's number one. Number two, she know that Zachariah alayhi salam and his wife, in the biblical books, they call her Elizabeth. So she was barren as well. So she knows that Zechariah and his wife Elizabeth, who was barren. Oh, finally, suddenly, they're all 100 years or over. Suddenly, Elizabeth, she has a child, or she's pregnant. So all this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to prep Mary alayhi salam, that something very miraculous can happen at any time, you know. And that is what that is why the connection here is we can connect that. So Mary can see the signs. So when she forced a female or a woman at that age, their scholars saying she was around age 15 when she got married, when she got pregnant with Isa alayhi salam. So still a young woman. So she would need to understand what's happening here. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps sending her a miracle after a miracle to prep her. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, ذِكْرُ رَحْمَةِ رَبِّكَ عَبْدَهُ زَكَرِيَّا. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said what? Remember to the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. You remember the mercy of your Lord, O Muhammad, to your to abdihi, to his slave Zechariah. All this is a very good. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring as abd. When you become Abdullah, or the servant of Allah, this is a big recognition to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means you are fulfilling your duties. That means you're fulfilling the actions, the right deeds which God has asked you to do. And that is very important. You to Abduhu Zakaria. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said Rahmah. The word Rahmah, remember the mercy. The word mercy here is something, a very important word, which means he's taking care of all of his affairs. Same thing, when you hear the word Rahmah, mercy, remember it's coming from the Arabic word Rahim, which means the place of the womb, which the mother have a baby inside. That mother, that womb, is taking care of the baby all the time. Oxygen, nutrients, antibiotics. The people, the baby can safely and sleep. The baby can breathe. The baby can have nutrients. The baby have every. He can even play. He can even have all kind of fun, and he's all protected. And this is why God is saying Rahmah. This is His Rahmah upon His servants. So when you become a servant, a true slave of God, His Rahmah, His mercy will come down upon you. إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا. Indeed, he called upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He asked Allah, he had a call about Allah upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nida'an khafiyya. He was making a supplication. He's making a prayer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khafiyyan means in secret, or outside the view, or I mean away from the view of people. So that means sincerity. When you are just doing something only between you and God, sincerity means it's urgent, means you really want it, so on and so forth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala most likely will respond to that dua more, because it's coming from the heart. He was in secret, in nobody, he didn't tell anybody about that dua, or about this prayer. قال رب إني وهن العظم مني واشتعل الرأس شيبا. He's basically give us the etiquettes of making a dua. You want, when you try to make dua, when you try to make supplication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you try to tell him that you're weak. When you come to God, God who wants people to show their weakness, to show that they're not able to. That's why they believe in him. That's why he's going to send down his help. And that is very important. As Zechariah, he didn't say, oh, Allah, oh God, give me please a child. No, 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 no. He didn't say that. He said, oh, he's showing his weakness. He said, قال رب إني, my bones are weak. وهن العظم مني واشتعل, indeed my hair is all gray. واشتعل الرأس شيبا ولم أكن بدعائك ربي شقيا. And I never disbelieved in your answer. This is what he said. So I never had despair from that you will respond, and you will fulfill my supplication, my prayer, your answer, my prayer. So that is a very important thing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Show the weakness, show that you're not able to do anything, and then refer your matter to God. وإني خفت الموالي من ورائي وكانت امرأتي عاقرة فهب لي من لدنك وليا. This is verse number 5. So he's saying, why ya Allah, I want a child. Why ya Allah, I want have somebody to come from my progeny. Only one reason for you, ya Allah. He's saying that I want somebody. He wants somebody to establish the prayer, somebody to invite people towards good, somebody to be able to carry on the message of Islam. Because remember, these are the Israelites, or the Bani Israel, or the Jewish people, but their religion is all Islam. It's all Islam. There's only the monotheism. It's all the Tawheed. So this is what it is. He was afraid that after that people will be misguided. People won't be on guidance anymore. So inni khuftum, I was afraid of people after me. And the people who my relatives and the people around me and all those will go misguided. And because my wife is barren, عاقرة فهب لي من لدنك وليا. Indeed, bring me or let me have a waliyan, a child, somebody who will follow my footsteps, who will be worshiper, who will be the same thing Allah said about me. That is, as Zechariah is saying on the tongue of Zechariah, I am a abd, I'm a servant, I'm a slave. Make somebody another person who's a slave. Somebody who I can teach him. At that time, the book was the Torah. So somebody who can teach him, somebody who can preach your words. So here he's making his case to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at this verse. So again, he's telling through من فعاقرة فهب لي من لدنك وليا. Please have somebody to fulfill, to invite people for goodness, for the worshiping, for the monotheism. يرثني ويرث من آل يعقوب واجعله ربي رضيا. Indeed, he will inherit me and inherit min Ali Yaqub. And Ali Yaqub, all the Israelites came from Sayyidina Yaqub, Jacob, peace be upon him. Everybody came, all the Israelites came from that line. So he said, that person will inherit that yarithuni in what? Yarithuni in the knowledge about God. Yarithuni in what? Nubuwa, in the prophethood. Yarithuni what? The risala, the message. So all of the hikmah, the wisdom, all of these things which needed for somebody who invite people for goodness, I want him to inherit that. The same dua, the same supplication, Ibrahim alayhi salam. It sounds familiar, like Abraham. He was so old also, and he asked God for progeny. He asked God for an offspring. Who will do what? Who will do the salah? ليقيموا الصلاة. First thing is to have connection with you, Ya Allah, to have a prayer, to do the prayer, and once you do the prayer, you still do everything. After that, you do everything good. So that is what Ibrahim. Same thing, Zakaria alayhi salam. He's asking for the same thing. He's asking for somebody from his progeny to keep going and to complete, or to not to complete, but to continue with the message of La ilaha illallah, that no God worthy of worshipping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يَرِثُنِي وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ. Indeed, he will inherit the prophethood of all of the family of Yaqub, of the family of Jacob. وَاجْعَلْهُ رَبِّي رَضِيًّا. And oh my Lord, make him pleasing to you. Make him, Radiya means pleasing to you. That you will be pleased of him, that you will give him the wisdom, that you will give him the knowledge, that you will give him all the tools, whatever he needs, so he'll become a faithful slave of you, my Lord. أقول قولي هذا، استغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر